my first question to you is, what is a leadership accelerator program? How did it help kickstart your career?
Okay. So a few of the companies, usually these are global companies which have footprint across various countries. These MNCs come up with some kind of programs which are given to young students, or I would say young career minds to us. The basic objective of a leadership program is that basically they want to get you in close touch with the leaders of that company. They want you to be able to sit with them, talk to them, work with them on a daily basis so that you can adapt to that kind of a culture and ultimately become future leaders for that company or for companies you join ahead in your career. So a leadership program is something which gives you a flavor of different kinds of leaders that you have in different kinds of companies. And they give you that necessary exposure, which helps you become a better leader or a more stronger leader. So over here, the need of the hour is not managers, but leaders. Leaders who can manage their people as well as take their companies, to a new height. So that is what a leader is. And I work with Baker Youth. I fortunately am a part of this leadership program. And how it has helped me accelerate my career is that there are so many things that I got to witness in person, given the jobs that I have been doing, given the people that I've been interacting with. It wouldn't have been possible had I joined as a normal employee with the company. The exposure that I get and the learning that I get is exponential. So I'll be talking more about this ahead. But for now, if you ask me how it helps me, I would just give you a simple answer. I am not the same person professionally that I was 2 years back when I joined the company. And in 2 years, I've not just learned and gained about work, but then I've learned and gained a lot about how to take care of people, how to think from a mindset which is not static, but from the growth mindset, as they call it. Yeah.
Okay, you nicely summed up the answer in a nutshell. So moving on to the next question. How different is a leadership program from a management trainee program?
Okay. So a lot of people often get confused between a leadership program and a management training program. The reason being that for both of these things, companies come to these school campuses to recruit and hire people. Now, usually what the tendency is that a management training program is a 1-year program, wherein you are onboarded to the company, and during that 1 year initial at the company, you work as a trainee, someone who gets on the job training. And once you complete that kind of training, which usually lasts for about 10 to 12 months, you are then made a permanent employee and are then given a particular role in the company basis whatever domain you chose. Unlike that, a leadership program is usually a minimum of 2 years. Many companies even have it for 3 years, depending upon the need of the role that you are in or the domain of expertise that you have chosen. For example, I'm a part of the finance domain. My leadership program is 2 years, but I know some people who belong to the supply chain. For them, it's not 2 years, it's 2.5 years because they require that kind of a training. Now, what a leadership program does is, while yes, you're still new to the company, you're still learning new things, you're still getting on the job training, but then you have to immediately apply that too. So while you get that training, you get to apply and execute it immediately. And in a management training program, you work over there for a year in one role. For example, if you are a marketing trainee or something, so you will be doing marketing only, one static thing. But in a leadership program, like we have it for our company, let's talk about that in detail. My leadership program is a 2-year program, wherein these 2 years are divided into 3 rotations. The first 2 rotations are 6 months each, and the third rotation is 1 year. Now, essentially, the idea behind keeping these different rotations is that they want me to experience different functions of finance. Now, finance is a huge domain. I have chosen corporate finance. Within corporate, we have different domains. Now, these can be FP&A, these can be tax, treasury, controllership, etc., and etc. And because it's the very early start of my career, I may have something that I have a strong liking for. But you never know when I may do something and I might potentially develop a liking for something else. Or I might be doubtful of some aspects of finance. So why they bring up these leadership programs and the rotations is that they want you to experience a few domains of these finance functions. And then they want to be able to give you the choice that what do you like, what interests you. So in my company, I have gone through three different rotations. Now, these three different rotations were in three different locations with three different teams. So you get to meet more people, you get to work with different people, different cultures, different styles of working. You get to work with, I would say, at a different location. So the culture, although globally it is the same, but still each location has its own nuance. And of course, then you get to do different jobs required in a finance function. You get to experience different functions of finance. When itself, for 6 months or for 12 months, when itself is basically, it gives you some kind of a clarity on what you want and what you don't want. For example, my second rotation was supply chain finance. And by the end of it, I was pretty sure that this is what I don't want at all. I don't want to be over here. This is not something that interests me. Does it mean I didn't learn anything? No, I learned a lot. So much that I can very confidently say that I've learned enough and I don't want to continue learning over here. This is not something that might interest me. So had I not known this earlier, or had I not experienced this kind of a rotation, I would have never known whether I like supply chain or I don't. And maybe, if it came to me in my career ahead, maybe 5 years down from now, I would have picked it up with not knowing that it doesn't suit my interest. So in that sense, it's very different from a management trainee program, because over there, you do not get the chance to live so many things. You do not get the chance to be with leaders. You're just in one static function. So that's how it's very different.
Okay. So moving on to our next question. Can you take us through different job rotations during your leadership program?
Okay. So if I tell you of my experience, now Baker Hughes as a company, it's so I'll just give you a quick 1 minute background of what the company is. It's a full stream company in the oil and gas industry. For the people who don't know Baker Hughes, this is erstwhile GE Oil and Gas. Okay, so it's a full stream industry in the oil and gas industry. And what I mean by full stream is that we have three components: upstream, midstream, and downstream. So upstream means anything with related to extracting the oil, midstream anything with relating to transporting that particular oil, and downstream is the latter half of all of this. That means in terms of basically getting it to the customers and then doing byproducting of all of that. So now as a company, for all of these upstream, downstream, and midstream, we have 4 different product lines which cater to each one of these. Now I belong to the TPS product line right now, and that is one of the midstream and upstream kind of a role, or that kind of a domain it services. So I have fortunately been, I would say, I experienced all these 3 domains in the way that I got to work with all of these 4 product lines in some way or the other. Now, if you look at it, it's like, if you look at it, like Tata has a lot of businesses. It's similar to that, but their businesses are very different and diverse. Are these 4 businesses lead up to the same thing, which is oil, either transporting it, extracting it, or making some kind of a byproduct. That's the kind of analogy I would use. So in my first rotation, I started off with commercial finance. Now, for those who don't know what commercial finance is basically starts from getting an order for, say, like an equipment to extract oil, and then executing that order, because we manufacture equipments to extract oil. So they call it the ITO as well as the OTR phase. Now ITO is inquiry to order, anything that is done in order to ensure that that particular bid, that particular tender comes to your company. All of that phase is known as ITO, inquiry to order. Once you have that tender, once you've won that particular bid, you have to execute it. This whole execution is OTR, order to remittance. Remittance basically means till the time you collect the cash. So the commercial function looks at ITO as well as OTR. So you have to prepare financials, you have to prepare forecasts in the ITO phase so that you have a number in mind that yes, I can sell this equipment to you maybe for 1,000 rupees. And then the company needs to know, if I'm selling this particular equipment for 1,000, what is my margin? How much do I earn? Because I need to have that kind of an analysis. If I'm not making profit, then why would I even sell it? So knowing that this is 1,000, I will spend $800 behind it, I get a 20% margin. So that's my CM, what they call. Now, once I won that $1,000 bid, I come up to execution. And I see that, okay, instead of 800 as cost, I'm incurring $850 as cost. So my CM changes from 20 to 15. So the change from 20 to 15 and the whole process of executing that order is taken care of by the OTR function. Now, it's not just finance, it's commercial operations, it's the sales team, it's the actual production team, the manufacturing team, and a lot of people are involved in both of these. So my first rotation was mostly on figuring out what amount to sell at and then what am I earning, like basically, ITO as well as OTR. Now, usually what happens is, since, it's an early start to my career, like I told you earlier, I was more involved on the execution process of it because the ITO requires certain amount of skills and experience, which only comes with time and experience. So I was more involved on the OTR side, where I used to look at the project that I have in my kitty, and I used to look at how well am I executing it? What are the margins that we are earning? Is there any way I can control costs and all of that? And then the second thing that I did the most was, because it's a manufacturing setup, which means you'll have a lot of inventory, you'll have a proper factory. So you have to ensure that your factory is well managed in terms of the inventory. You don't want everything to pile up. You have to be better decision makers in terms of sourcing only what you require and not sourcing everything at once. So that was the other task that I used to do in my first rotation, which was the commercial finance. Now this happened for the first 6 months. Then for the second rotation, now the first one was based out in Gurgaon. The second rotation was supply chain FP&A. Now over here, I went back to a manufacturing plant, which is located in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. And over there, we produced walls. So I was involved in all the activities that are relating to plant finance. So, on a weekly basis, we used to do a calculation of how much are we shipping this week? How much are we going to be shipping this quarter? What is the amount of orders that I have? What are the CMs behind it? How well are my revenues coming? How well are my cash coming in? Is there issues with cash? How well is my past due? Now, all of these things make sense to you once you know what an order is. So when you get an order, you take some advance money from them, then you execute the order. Then after that, you track the progress on each order, and ultimately you completely finish the order, you ship it to the customer. Then, and it doesn't mean that once you ship it, your money is in. No, the customer, usually because we provide very technical equipments, so we have to give them certain kinds of warranties, and we give them leverage that, okay, don't pay us all of it right now. You can maybe, retain 10% or 15%, and you can pay it to us after, say, like 6 months or 12 months. We have to instill in them in this confidence that if anything goes wrong with our product, we'll take care of it. So doesn't mean that once you ship out the product, your revenue will come in. No, revenue coming in takes time. And at times, companies go bad debt. A lot of these things happen, and you have to track the whole cycle. So that is what I was doing in my second rotation, which was everything relating to plant finance and managing my orders that I had in the kitty and ensuring that all of these were getting delivered on time, all of these were getting executed at good margins. And that's essentially the time, when COVID hit us. So we had a lot of challenges to face. And one of those challenges was to keep costs as low as possible because we know the market wasn't good. So, as an initiative, we got in touch with a few customers, we got in touch with our engineering teams. We tried to make customizations to the equipment so that costs would come down. But the ultimate goal was any which ways fulfilled. So if a customer required a certain kind of customization, we gave them better options so that the cost could be managed and the kind of burden of pressure was taken care of. So that was my second role. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention when I was talking about the leadership program is that the leadership program does not necessarily mean you stay confined to the geographical boundaries of your country. My company wanted us to even experience something global because Baker Hughes is not an India company, it's a global MNC which has operations all over the world. So, for you to experience it completely, for you to get a sense of the culture of the company, you have to experience different cultures, working styles of different countries also. So my third rotation was supposed to be something in treasury and it was supposed to be based out in London. But then thanks to COVID, all kinds of travel restrictions existed, which is why I had to come back to base. So I again for my third rotation I came back to Gurgaon. And ultimately I've been working from Delhi because that's where my hometown is. So and for the last I think August onwards I was in the third rotation. Now, the third rotation that I do is global FP&A. So I am at the India headquarters right now, and I'm managing the financial planning and analysis of India as a country in terms of all of its four product lines. So in my first two rotations, I was doing everything relating to one particular product line. But right now, I'm looking at operations for all the four product lines. And the task that I am, or the project that I am involved in, is looking at the efficiency of my working capital as well as the fixed capital. So from an operational perspective, I'm working on improving the efficiency. So I look at my AR, I look at my AP, I look at my inventory. AR as low as possible means the days sales outstanding should be as low as possible so that you're converting revenue ASAP. Your DPO is essentially the days payable outstanding. That means you should have your supplier should give you a good credit period to be able to pay them, and then you have the inventory. Inventory is basically keep it as lean as possible to ensure that a lot of capital is not getting stuck because you have to then convert that inventory into revenue, which will take time. So my task over here is ensuring all of this, these DIOs, these DPOs, these DSOs are in the that in the standard phase or are in the standard numbers. But like any other company, you never exist in standards. Reality is always different than from as expected or as required. So my project right now, what I'm working on is keeping a check on all of these and improvising the efficiency. Apart from that, as a company, we have a lot of intercompany transactions. We purchase within the company from different units or legal entities based out in different parts of the world. And so we deal in INR and dollars and etc. And if we have to pay back to our other company, our other half maybe which is based out in US, that means I have to pay them back in dollars. And India as a currency keeps fluctuating. So if I have a $20 million payable, India INR, the currency keeps fluctuating and keeps depreciating by maybe what 3 to 5% every year. So on a $20 million, I have close to around $1 million of forex in terms of the currency depreciation. So we have to ensure that our payrolls are also taken care of, and that ultimately, if I'm losing out on INR as a currency, it's the loss for the company because at the end of the day, it's the one company, it's not one legal entity. So a lot of projects keep happening statically. I have been a part of commercial, I have been a part of supply chain, I have done FP&A, but then there are other people who've done controllership, they've done treasury, they've done OTR finance, business development, etc., etc. So the good part is that the company gives you a choice, basis availability, of course, to choose what you interest, and then they try to meet the personal need with the company need. These were areas of my interest, and yeah, it's been good so far.
Okay. So moving on to our next question. How is the career progression ahead of the leadership program?
Okay. When you become a part of the company and you guys are a part of the leadership pipeline, the company makes a lot of investments in you. I remember the first investment is in terms of spending so much time, money, and resources and effort in grooming you. You don't know everything. When you join the company, you hardly know anything. You don't know how to apply those theoretical concepts to practical life. So your ears sit down with you. They give you a little hint. They teach you a lot of stuff of how things are done in the practical world, and then you start implementing it. So while you're learning, you are executing also. So the company makes a lot of investment in you. And at the end of it is 2 years or 3 years, they don't want you to drop off to any other company. They would want to retain you so that now that they've invested so much in you, you know, you are able to give it back or, pay it back in some form or the other. So if the good companies want to retain you at the end of each of these programs and they create roles for you, or there are existing roles which you can now fill because you have that kind of an experience. But what a leadership program does is that it accelerates you uh, by at least a minimum, I would say, 2 to 3 years. So, had I joined the company like a normal employee, I see a lot of people, other of my colleagues who join the normal employees. Their growth has not been what my growth has been, and my growth has been exponential. For example, if I tell you my own case, I graduate the program. So we call it graduation. It's like a 2 year again MBA or whatever, but we call it graduation of the program. I joined the program in July and I joined the program in July 2019. I graduated the program in 2021, this year, July. And essentially, once you've experienced different rotations of finance, you get to, like if you want to stay within the company, of course, they'll show you what are the available options. They'll tell you to talk to people. They'll tell you to find where you want to be. And we can literally ring up anyone, of course, in a formal manner. We set up some time and we can talk to people within the company. So I have spoken to executives and leaders all across the company, all over the globe. I've had meetings even at 12 o'clock in the night because that leader was based out in America. But then she had a job that I was interested in, and I was like, okay, let me talk to you. Let me introduce myself to you. Let me show you what work I've done. Let me know more about the job that you've posted. And if things work out, let's see where it goes ahead. So if a normal employee joins the company, he's usually not given that kind of a leverage or exposure or that kind of I would say guidance or the chance also to be able to just go up and walk to such a leader. But I am. Unfortunately, so we were told. So once you're in your last rotation, you're in the last 6 months of your rotation, you start finding yourself an off-program role. And the good news is that I've already found an off-program role for myself. So I'll be the new OTR finance, like I mentioned, IPO versus OTR. I'll be the new OTR finance regional leader for one of the product lines, and I'll be handling Middle East, I'll be handling Europe, Iraq, Oman, and India as my key areas for one of the product lines. And ultimately, I moved to Dubai in July. So that's my new role, which happens after I graduate the program. And the good part is that I have an extremely appreciative and a very kind and flexible team. My team is based out in Italy. They gave me the option to either work to come to Italy or to go to London or even Dubai. Um, but the thing is that right now, given the COVID scenario, given the restrictions on travel, I chose Dubai as the preferred location to relocate. And the thing is that they're supportive, they're good people, it's a very good role. This wouldn't have been possible had I been, uh, as a normal employee, had I not been in Aspire. I would say 1 out of 100 get this chance if they are a normal employee in the company. But since we are aspirers, we have the right, we have, I would say, the leverage or the edge over these other people to be able to convert these jobs into something which is a better position. So for me, it's a promotional role. I get to be in a better country. I get to be in a better role. I get to work for a bigger region. Right now, I was just looking at India. Now I'll be looking at 2, 3 different big countries with a lot of more dynamic involved. So of course, it's accelerated. And had I joined this to reach up to what I am at today, it would have taken me maybe 3, 4 years to get to the role that I am joined right now. It took me 2 years, but had I been someone else or coming from the normal, they required a minimum experience of 5 years. That is what the JD would tell you. But since they know that you're an aspire and you've navigated through so many different functions and you've developed that kind of a mindset, you are absolutely eligible and you can apply, and I got it. That's how these things worked out in my favor.